I'm going to start. Hello, 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 and welcome back to Lude Plays Final Fantasy 13, or whatever. I keep saying or whatever at the end, because I don't really have a set title for this, I'm just doing whatever. So here we are back with lightning. The alarms are blaring, it's apparently code red, or green, or purple, or white, or something. There are enemies everywhere, everyone's against us. Bad things have been happening. So this segment of the game is probably one of the most annoying segments because our current party is Lightning, Hope, and Fang, and they are not very offensively set up. We don't have the ability to make our attacks do more damage like Saz can. We don't have the ability to make enemies take more damage like Vanille has. And so we are kind of constrained to use just a straight-up commando bonus or perhaps a Ravager elemental bonus, but we don't get the benefits of Bravery, Faith, and spells, Deprotect, Deshell, or Imperil to make fights go a lot faster. All we can really do to increase damage is to stagger an enemy, or generally chain an enemy to a high chain gauge. That statement is actually slightly incorrect. There are several ways that we can do more damage. And one of them is obviously to equip items that increase your stats. Now, generally speaking, stats aren't as good as general better strategy. But if I optimize Lightning's magic right now, she gets 278 magic. Whereas previously she was at 156. The way that stats scale in 13 is linear. So getting the 122 extra points of magic means that her attacks would do like 122 points more worth of damage. To figure out what that actually means, you can divide the final magic stat by your original magic stat, and that decimal is the multiplier to damage. So the exact decimal in this case is 1.78, so optimized magic on Lightning increases her magic damage by 78%, which, since we don't have the ability to cast Faith for the 40% bonus or to inflict D-Shell for the 89% bonus, you know, that's certainly significant. It's significant in general because it would multiply with those other bonuses as well. But we can do better. And one of the ways that we can do better is to utilize the upgrade mechanic in this game. Now, upgrading is rather obscure. As we've talked about in the past, you need to be careful with the components that you use. Some of them are better off sold. At the very least, organics need to be used first to get to the X3 multiplier, followed by mechanical components to exploit the X3 multiplier, because they have way more experience. But some of these are better worth selling, and once you sell things, you need to know which ones to buy. So for this segment, I actually did a little bit of prior research to demonstrate the upgrade potential that we can have. And so I already know what I'm going to end up buying. But what's also important is knowing what to sell. And in the past, we've discussed what components should be sold. The organic components should be sold if they sell for more than 420 gil. We don't have any of those. These are all cheap ones, which are better off being used. Mechanical ones, on the other hand, do the opposite. If they sell for less than 420 gil, they should be sold. So these digital circuits and silicone oils should be sold because it is more effective to use those components or rather the gil from those components, to purchase the more effective mechanic components. This superconductor costs 420 gil. We're going to hold on to it, because superconductor is actually one of the most efficient upgrading materials once you have access to all the ones you can buy in the shop. The credit chip and incentive chip, they do sell for more than 420 gil, but they also come with the note, can be sold for a premium. And in this game, anything that says that means it has no other purpose but to be sold. If you try to use it as an upgrade component, it would provide only 1 experience point, and that is massively inefficient compared with the sell values. So I'm going to go and sell those and get a lot of money. They are literally meant to be sold. We went from 20-ish thousand gil to 60-ish thousand gil, so we sort of tripled our gil amounts, which is great. These components down here are the transformational catalysts. They should not be sold. The only one that you should consider selling is Millerite. In fact, it's not even a consideration. You should sell it. The other ones you probably want to hold on to, with some exceptions, like Rotocrossite. You only ever need 3 at most, and once you've used them, you can sell the rest. But in general, it's probably safer to just hold on to them because they don't really give you that much gil anyway, and they are massively more expensive to purchase later on in the game. Now, I haven't sold any weapons or accessories yet, and part of that is because you do need to hold on to some of them in order to get the Treasure Hunter achievement. Not because you need to hold on to it explicitly, but because you need to upgrade the weapon or accessory to the next tier in order to get the next next level accessory and or weapon or whatever. Because the Treasure Hunter achievement, if you don't know, it's awarded if you have held each possible weapon or accessory at some point in the game. So, especially with weapons, each weapon has 3 tiers, and even though the 3rd tier for a single character is the same for any base weapon, the tier 2 isn't. I know I haven't really explained all of this in great detail, but I'm not going to sell any weapon. It could give you a temporary gil increase that can help you with whatever gil situation you're in that you require gil. Like this lifesaver that sells for 10,000 gil is otherwise useless for practical reasons, so you could sell it for 10,000 gil. But since you need it for Treasure Hunter later, and you would have to purchase it back for 20,000 gil, you know, you sort of have to measure, you know, is the 10,000 gil now more useful than the 20,000 gil that I'd have to spend later? But because I don't feel like thinking about that and I just want to keep things simple, I'm going to hold on to those. The accessories, on the other hand, not all accessories are required to be held on to. In fact, these iron bangles have basically overstayed their welcome. I've held on to them, I've considered selling them, I've not yet. But really, 50 HP at this point in the game is pretty useless. And the 1 level up expansion, the next tier, is in fact the silver bangle, which I already have. There's no reason to hold on to an iron bangle unless you want to catalyze some, or synthesize some passive ability, which I have, well, I guess I have discussed. I talked about physical wall. But in any case, I'm not really using these iron bangles. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of them. It's not too much gil, but it is at least cleaning up the accessory list. The silver bangles and tungsten bangles, well, I'm just going to go ahead and sell the silver bangles, because currently my tungsten bangles are the best bangle, and I haven't really been using them. I might be throwing them on Hope from time to time, but I don't really need 6 accessories considering I've been utilizing other combinations. In fact, these black belts that I have here are more effective at keeping your HP high than just maxing your max HP, or increasing your max HP. So the other thing to be careful about with certain accessories, even if the higher tier is available, like in the case of the Spark Ring versus the Fulmin Ring, these accessories are in particular unique, and you cannot purchase them later on in the game. I know I've mentioned this several times, but there aren't too many things that you can't purchase later on. Every single weapon can be purchased later on, if not now. But not every accessory can. And for the most part, they are the elemental resistance accessories. So anything that resists an element, you'd probably never want to sell if you're a completionist or if you're worried about treasure hunter. The debuff resistance ones are repurchasable. The physical and magic and damage resistance ones are repurchasable, but elemental resistance is not. And then there are some other unique accessories that aren't repurchasable. For instance, Doctor's Codes are unique. Once you sell them or dismantle them, you cannot get them back. But you only ever need at most one of these, because it only affects your leader. Early in the game, it might be fine to have two, so you could have one on your leader as you change parties because of story segments, but eventually we're going to reach a point where there won't be any of that. And so you'd only ever need one. So all that to say that I don't want to sell anything beyond those bangles, with one exception, and it's a massive exception, because there's one particular accessory here that is very valuable in terms of gil, and it's the royal armlet. You can see that it sells for 20,000 gil, and it's the only accessory I have that sells for 5 figures. Royal Armlet is an accessory that sounds better than it actually is. Its passive ability, resist damage, plus 5%, is very weak. 5% damage resistance doesn't do that much for you, especially compared with these maxed black belts, which resist physical damage by 20%. That's 4 times the damage resistance, only for physicals, but you really only need one or the other, depending on which fight you're in. You don't need to double up on them. If you wanted to hold on to the Royal Armlet, you would lose out on the 20,000 gil you could sell it for. But furthermore, if you want to max it, and its maxed damage resistance is 15%, which is better than 5, but not as good as 20. If you went for the 15% damage resistance route, you would have to spend at this point in the game 38,000 gil to upgrade it. So not only do you lose out on the 20,000 gil profit, but you'd have to invest 38,000 gil additionally in order to max out the Royal Armlet, and you only have the one. It only affects one character. You can't purchase this right now. It is eventually purchasable, but only at the very end of the game. And it's just too expensive to really be worth considering. These black belts, they cost about 40. They cost exactly 4,500 to purchase, and the upgrade is only about 5,000 gil at most. So you spend 9,500 gil, and you have a maxed black belt. The Royal Armlet, it's just too expensive, or the slightly less gains you would get from it. And you can purchase this later. You don't actually need to purchase it even for Treasure Hunter, because its next tier upgrade is an unavoidable drop. Spoilers. So you can safely sell the Royal Armlet, and you don't have to worry about Treasure Hunter repercussions. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And that puts me at 87,000 gil. Remember that I have not done any farming other than just fighting every enemy group once, and I have 87,000 gil right now. Now, I haven't been blowing gil away. I've done a few upgrades. I haven't really bought too many things. I've bought some potions occasionally. I bought painkillers and mallets, but I've not really spent that much gil. Well, that's going to change. We're going to purchase several things for the sake of making this section of the game a little better, because as mentioned, we're controlling Lightning, Hope, and Fang, and so these fights, if you aren't set up for them, can take a long time. So I'm going to invest in several components, and just to make this as streamlined as possible, I'm going to go and purchase them all up front. But really, if you're going to purchase components, you would probably be doing these more like one at a time for a single upgrade. Like you'd be saying to yourself, I want to upgrade the Blazefire Saber, and so the upgrade that I want is such and such, so I'm going to purchase X sturdy bones and Y crankshafts. and you would upgrade that. But I calculated this all beforehand to make this a little streamlined, and I'm going to purchase 73 sturdy bones and 36 barbed tails. Now remember that sturdy bone, barbed tail, and vibrant ooze are equivalent in terms of upgrading efficiency. So if I wanted to, I could have just purchased 36 vibrant oozes and have 38, but I'm gonna purchase these just to separate them from the upgrade order that I have. I'm also going to Lenora's garage, and I'm going to purchase a lot of crankshafts. Remember that crankshaft is the current most effective upgrade component here. If you're going to purchase something in Chapter 9 to upgrade with, crankshaft is the most efficient for experience. If you try to look up various upgrade information on the game, most upgrade suggestions are based on superconductors or particle accelerators or ultra compact reactors, because those are the ones you get in Chapter 11. But if you're doing an early upgrade, you would have to use something else, and for now it's crankshaft. How many crankshafts are we going to get? Well, we can afford 93, but I'm not actually going to get 93. That's a bit too many. All I need is 89, I believe. 32, 64, 68, 88, 89. Yeah, I just need 89. That's a lot of gil. I just blew my entire stack. But now I have many of the most effective upgrade component. Assuming I've done my math right. If I did my math wrong, this is going to look awful. I'm going to be upgrading 4 pieces of equipment. The first is a weapon. I'm going to upgrade the first weapon. And I'm going to take the Blazefire Saber, actually. Now, you might see various recommendations online for best weapons for each character, and they will usually recommend for lightning either the Edged Carbine for magic or the Gladius for strength. In fact, I might have said previously that these are the best magic weapons and strength weapons, and those are the ones that you would want to use for lightning. But that's more for when they're more upgraded, and because I can't afford the luxury of, or I don't have the luxury, I also can't afford the luxury, but I don't have the luxury of being able to upgrade many things, so I'm going to upgrade the Blazefire Saber. The advantage of upgrading the Blazefire Saber, it's actually her cheapest weapon to upgrade right now. It's easiest to get it to its max level. It will increase both her strength and magic, which will make either stat useful. Now, you have to be careful with that, because as an AI, she will alternate between strength attacks and magic attacks, which is not too useful. But if you're leading her, it's fine, because you can control what you want to use. And, well, let's see what the stats that we get from it. Now, generally you want to get to the X3 multiplier. The best way to get to X3 is not to just blow every single organic possible at once. You want to stagger them. So currently we're at X1 multiplier because we don't see a bonus. If I put this begrimed claw in, if I were to now put all 16 bestial claws in, I would end up at 1.5 multiplier. That's actually a loss of experience. It's better to put 5 in first. This puts me at a 1.25, or a 25% bonus. Then these components then have a 1.25 bonus. I could put all of these in, or I could put 5 in, and then I get the 50% bonus. And now these receive a 50% bonus. I could put the remaining 6 in. It's not going to increase the bonus multiplier, but by having staggered the 16 bestial claws like I did, we received slightly more experience out of them. Every little bit can help. It might cut out a crankshaft or a superconductor or whatever thing you're doing, and that would save you 840 gil, and especially considering gil can be tight or limited, you would need to be mindful of cutting out whatever you can. Of course, being able to do that, or knowing how to do that, requires extensive research, which can be difficult. The abominable wings, if I put in all 10, I will be put into X2 multiplier. So instead I'm going to do 3 here, This gives me 140 experience and takes me to 75% bonus. Another 3 with the 75% bonus gives me 173 experience, and this puts me at X2 multiplier. And the remaining 4 will give 264 experience and won't further upgrade the multiplier. Getting from X2 to X3 requires extensive bonus points, so it's actually going to be fastest to put the rest of these organics. I've skipped Sturdy Bone and Barb's Tail because I'm not including them in the calculation. Murky Ooze, if I put 10 in, I do end up at X3. X3 is the highest, so you could sort of just use whatever at that point, but if I put the 2 Murky Oozes and 2 Vibrant Oozes, now, even though X3 is the highest, and there's not really any reason to put more in order to get a higher multiplier, you do want to put more in so that when I put this single superconductor in, it doesn't lower. It did lower. Oh, because I needed a Sturdy Bone. That's why. I missed the Sturdy Bone part of that. I needed to put 1 extra Sturdy Bone in order to keep the X3. Now, I don't think that should really affect things too much, but we'll see. If I do 21 crankshafts and I don't max out the blaze fire, we'll be in trouble. But we did max it. And now the Blazefire Saber provides 115 points of strength and magic, which is excellent. I think at base it was 15 points, so we've gotten an extra 100 points in these stats. Now, if you can upgrade this earlier in the game, it would be a bit harder depending on which part of the game you're in. You could try to do this in Chapter 4 as soon as you unlock the upgrade system, but you might need some amount of gil and preparation in order to do so. Especially because you would need to purchase polymer emulsions, which are pretty awful, but they are the best you can get until Chapter 7. If you can get a maxed Blazefire Saber in Chapter 4, then the lightning sections of the game become significantly faster because she hits far harder than the game probably expects. We're not done. We're now going to upgrade some accessories. And we got 2 accessories in Chapter 7 that are slightly inferior to the maxed power wristbands and magician's marks. The power wristband star gives 60 strength, the brawler's wristband gives 50 strength, but once we max this one, we'll see what its true potential is. We're now down to the organics that we've purchased. If you have no idea how else to use the upgrade system, here's what you can do. You can remember the pattern 447318. Those 5 numbers represent the numbers of sturdy bones, or barb tails, or vibrant oozes that you should put in to maximize the experience from the sturdy bone. 4 at base takes me to 25% experience bonus. 4 beyond that takes me to 50%. And then 7 puts me at 75%. 3 puts me at 100%. And then 18 puts me at 200%. It's 447318. Those numbers only pertain to sturdy bone, barbed tail, or vibrant ooze. Other organic components require different numbers, and especially if you start mixing various organic components together, you're not going to be able to follow that pattern. But if you've purchased only sturdy bones, then 447318 is the most efficient order to maximize the experience from the sturdy bones and to get to X3 multiplier. Then when you're at X3, you can then use the mechanical components, and if you've purchased the best mechanical components, you could then max out the weapon from that point. Otherwise, it would be a good idea to front load more organics in order to make sure you maintain the X3 as you mix and match the mechanicals. So by using 447318 sturdy bones, we actually cut out a crankshaft. If I just did 36 sturdy bones, I would need 33 crankshafts, but because I did 4, 4, 7, 3, 18, I now need just 32 crankshafts. This maxes out the Brawler's Wristband, and we see that its stat potential is not 50, it's 120. So maxing the Brawler's Wristband provides 70 more points of strength than base, and it provides twice as much strength total than a Power Wristband, which is pretty nice. We can do the same thing with the Shaman's Mark. In fact, Shaman's Mark and Brawler's Wristband, in terms of what you need to upgrade with, are basically equivalent. In fact, they are equivalent. So 4, 4, 7, 3, and 18 puts you to X3 at the most efficient way, and 32 crankshafts maxes out the Shaman's Mark. And like the Brawler's Wristband, it takes magic from 50 to 120, and the end result is that it provides twice as much magic as the maxed Magician's Mark. The last thing I'm going to upgrade is this remaining black belt, because I want to have 3 black belt stars. Then I could put 1 on each character, and it doesn't feel as inefficient. So, again, 4, 4, 7, 3, 18, and then 4 crankshafts. In this case, it's 4 crankshafts, but the 4, 4, 7, 3, 18 is what gets you to X3. Notice that the Uraninite has actually lit up. You can actually use the Uraninite to get the next tier black belt, which can increase its max physical resistance potential. I'm not going to do that because Uraninites are a bit expensive. They are a little hard to come by. There are several in the game, but they're a little hard to come by. You can purchase them, but they're a bit expensive, and I just don't want to do that. Black Belt Star is good enough for what I need. The one that might be worth considering is upgrading the Brawler's Wristband. It would actually provide more strength, but again, for treasure hunter purposes, I probably want to hold on to the Uraninite. And we've already gotten extensive stat boosts from the Brawler's Wristband and Shaman's Mark and Blazefire Saber. So, the end result of all of this, if we just go for a magic lightning, remember that when we set up lightning with the max magic possible at the time, she went from 156 magic to 278, which was relatively a 78% increase in magic. But let's see what happens if we do that now. The Blazefire Saber provides far more magic now than the Edged Carbine. It's almost 100 extra points of magic than the Edged Carbine, so the Blazefire Saber Star will give way more magic. The Shaman's Magic Star gives me 120 magic, and the Magician's Mark Star gives me 60 magic. Not as good as the other ones, but if my main interest is to maximize her magic, this is how I could do it. This provides 443 magic. I honestly don't remember what was the original number. I want to say it was like 156 or something. But, whatever it was, we just really increased her magic damage potential. If it was 156, now she is doing 2.8 times magic damage. And this is before anything else happens. We can have increased damage with chain gauge, and eventually faith and end spell and commando bonuses. We can really have her do a lot of damage. And especially early on if we had these stats, because this is a static point game, but she can continue to gain stats through the Crystarium, so the actual relative increase diminishes over the course of the game. But if we had this sort of setup in Chapter 4, she would be pretty invincible. Regardless, I'm not actually going to use magic because she has Blitz, and having a really strong Blitzer is very strong. If I give her the Blazed Fire and a Brawler's Wristband, she has 372 strength. Compare that with Fang, who currently has 173. She's going to do twice as much damage with a Blitz as Fang would. She also has 4 ATB, so she can actually use Blitz twice, whereas Fang can only Blitz once in a single stream. Now, I don't really want to increase the other character stats too much, because the thing to worry about now, with higher stats comes lower target times, and having 5 stars in fights, in this section at least, is better because it increases the chances of getting incentive chips, which sell for 2,500 gil. So you want to get as many incentive chips in this section as possible. Now, various enemies don't drop as useful rare drops as incentive chips. Sometimes it's just a mere organic component, so you don't always need to worry about getting 5 stars, but I do want to get 5 stars in this section. So whereas I could, like, give Fang, say, the Shaman's Mark and the Magician's Mark to give her 295 magic, and then she would use Ruins, which are single target and not multi-target, she would attack slower, and the target time would lower, and I wouldn't be able to really increase the battle times, or not increase, but reduce the battle times to offset the target time reduction. So it doesn't really matter what I give them if I'm avoiding stat increases. HP is not a stat that actually affects things, so I'm just going to give them Bangles because I don't really care for what they have too much. It's really Lightning who's now the physical powerhouse. And to that end, I probably want to try to utilize Aggression copiously. Now, I'm probably going to, if I just do straight up Aggression, things probably aren't going to work too well. Certain enemies are probably still better staggered, and especially against those Vikings, remember they are weak to lightning and water, which means that Spark Strike and Aqua Strike would be better. So let's just see. Let's start fighting now, for once. Best-Bid Soldier is a new enemy. We have no idea what its elemental weaknesses are, but that will change. It is weak to fire and thunder. Has a chain resistance of 20, which means that it is usually a better idea to chain than it would be to do straight up damage dealing. It has 12,000 HP, so maybe I can just blitz twice and do well. Well, it is actually doing well.
Out of my way!
So in this case, it would be better to stick with blitzes because we can do multi-damage things. But as you can see, these guys do have a very damaging attack called Aurora. So you don't want them to unleash multiple Auroras. Here we have some soldiers, and we have a new enemy, Thermodyne, which looks similar to previous Scale Beasts and Lucidons, so there's probably a similar pattern with this guy. He's resistant to physical and magical, which is, of course, makes sense. He has a high chain resistance, which is consistent. It says exceptionally high HP. I guess 43,000 is a lot, but we have also seen, like, standard enemies with 100,000 at this point, so it's not really that unusual.
Change of plan. Out of my way!
And the Thermodyne does use Photon Burst, which hurts. Now those raiders do sometimes do physicals, or not physicals, but sometimes guard, which makes it really hard to be able to damage them, but they are also somewhat easy to stagger. Now, once Thermodyne's staggered, he's actually weak to water. So, even though we've staggered him, I'm going to stay Lightning as a Ravager because she can use Aqua Strike, which does damage comparable to the Commando, while at the same time doing increasing the chain gauge. Unfortunately, since I don't have another Relentless Assault, I can't need to be refreshed as effectively. This item is a white cape, which is an accessory that provides fog resistance. We got some new enemy intel, which is why this is flashing. Now this fight. This is the 3 Viking fight, one of the most annoying fights in this area because there's really just no better way to deal with this than to stagger and kill one by one. This is part of why I chose to upgrade Lightning stats, is to make this fight a little faster, because otherwise it's just a massive nuisance. I'm gonna start in Gorilla because I do want to have some defensive buffs, because there will be a lot of attacks going on. And I want to use 2 Relentless Assaults, because we can utilize Lightning's Ravager. And Mystic Tower, maybe, in case we need Fang to draw aggression for a while. But this should be fine. You can get the Preemptive Strike easily enough. Whenever you get a Preemptive Strike, it's usually a good idea to open with Quake. I'm just waiting for attack on everyone. Opens with Bar Fire because Intel says employs powerful fire-based attacks, which don't actually happen until a Viking goes to 50% or less HP. As you can see, even with one stagger, I didn't really get a whole Viking kill. Now he's using Thermal Discharge, which is the fire elemental attack, and so Bar Fire helps protect against that.
Time for another approach.
Curse helps with maintaining interruption against these guys. And one thing you could try to do is utilize Wadara and Thundara post-stagger to increase the chain gauge dramatically. This might have allowed me to kill a Viking in a single stagger back when I was buffing. With Hope and Fang attacking, it actually should be killed in a single stagger. It's just the time spent buffing sort of prevented that from happening. Yeah, now that one's down. Since this guy lost slow, we can utilize Fang's, or not slow, but sure, so you can utilize Fang's debuffing. She will only try to land a debuff if it's not currently inflicted. As annoying as it is.
Keep the enemy off balance. Change of plan.
So even with the better stats, it still took almost 3 minutes to get that fight done. We almost were able to run up along the Thermodyne's back, but he turned around at the last moment. I'm not actually sure if I can get this preempt, because those Vespid soldiers are staring at me, but maybe if I do it now, yeah, we got it. Good idea to try to get a preemptive strike on Vespid soldiers, because we want to try to cut down their Auroras as fast as we can. And that was a 37-second fight as opposed to a possible 3-minute fight involving lots of Auroras and photon bursts and what have you.
No hesitation. Target's a target. Eat this! And I was just getting started.
We got an incentive chip from that fight, which is good. This chest has a pain dampener. It is an accessory that provides pain resistance, which is opposite of the white cape, I guess, and it is located on the opposite side of the area than the white cape, so it's a bit fitting. Another 3 Viking fight, and so this time, I think to make this a little easier, I'm going to set up double gorillas. I didn't really use Mystic Tower, I guess, but having the A to B refresh on gorilla will help. In fact, maybe I should change Mystic Tower to Smart Bomb, because I only really needed those 3 paradigms, and so having ATB refreshes for those, especially since we lack haste, can help speed things up a bit. Get the preemptive strike, as always. Quake.
No No hesitation. Keep the enemy off them. Change of plan. Keep the enemy off balance.
And we still didn't get the kill, even though I used water and thunder at that time. We did spend a little more time in what was it? Gorilla than we probably should have, so.
Change of plan. Time for another approach. Nothing personal. Keep the enemy off balance.
These guys could drop perfect conductors, which are interesting. Let's just take a look at how much they sell for. Perfect conductors sell for 800 gil, which is more than 420, which means it's a mechanical component that you shouldn't sell. It is actually very rarely more effective than the superconductor in terms of upgrading, very rarely. And occasionally you might want to use those, like if you can purchase them, which is about the same time that you can purchase superconductors. But it's a little weird because on paper they're better, but practically they're not usually better. It's weird. Should get this preempt then.
Keep your mind on the battle.
I don't need to quake this time.
Thanks. Time for another approach.
This Fang provided enough chain duration on her own.
Keep the enemy off balance. Be ready for the next fight.
These I do want to have commando. Probably don't need 2 relentless assaults. I think I'm gonna change a smart bomb into ruthless. Let's make sure that Fang has Dispel, because again, this is the enemy that buffs themselves, and she does have Dispel, so that's great. I'm gonna put Kurska on. I didn't even know that. I totally forgot that she didn't have Kurska yet, which would have made it a little nicer for Vikings. She did have Sloga. I saw her use Sloga, so she has all the abilities there. Let's just get these abilities. I think we might have enough CP for that. All the abilities there. All the abilities there. Alright, Fang has all of her abilities. Hope needs 2 more Synergist and 1 more Medic ability. There's Veil. And there's Boon, which we discussed previously, extends the duration of currently existing buffs upon casting a new one. And that's his last ability. Lightning has 2 more Commandos and 2 more Medics. He's over here? Yeah, it's over there. Unfortunately, we can't afford her last one, which is way over here. But we'll get there someday. I'm still neglecting Snow because, as you can see, he's not in the party. Or he's sort of available, but we still cannot change my team members, which is a bit annoying. Oh, they saw me. I think they can usually see you, so it's not really worth trying to stop that from happening. Trying to blitz them when they're both staggered, but they're not really cooperating. We did get an incentive ship, which is good. Alright, more Vikings! So the usual setup from the previous fights works well.
Change of plan.
So is she going to use Kurska when she's done slowing? Yep, there's Kurska. That helps a bit, I guess.
Keep the enemy off balance.
Alright, well, let's just do this. Because still trying to figure out how to kill the first guy in Stagger without... I guess I'm spending too long on buffing, is the problem. Oh, we get it! We did it! We did it! Now, the problem with with a Stab AI is when they cast debilitation spells, they don't want to cast them on the active target because I don't know. I guess the logic is we're trying to debilitate all the targets, so how about you take out the current target and I'll weaken the others? But it's just annoying when I'm trying to get chain duration on.
Be ready for the next fight.
And let's see what else we have here. We have soldiers. Soldiers demand commando. Well, unless they start guarding. Let's start with commandos. Let's just set one commando in each of the relevant roles. Oh, but we got the preempt, which is good.
Nothing I can't handle.
They're all infiltrators, which means that they have lower HP.
You asked for it.
So I think that was a loop of the inner ring. Yep, because that's back to where we started. So now let's tackle the inner ring. I might have said inner ring twice. I meant middle ring. And now this is the inner ring. And this item ball has Aurora Crossites, which is our second of two. Well, I say of two as if there's only two. It's the second of the two we've gotten, which means it's the last one that we've gotten so far. But there could be more coming up. Ooh, preempt.
Nothing I can't handle.
Against two Vespid soldiers.
Thank you.
And we got the
Now
kill.
it's done.
And then this item ball has a perfect conductor. And then, oh, we did not get this preempt. Oh well.
Thank you. New strategy. Easy.
Alright, I believe that is all the enemies in this section. Because, we fought them all once. Some of them have actually respawned. We can see that some of the Vested soldiers and the Vikings have respawned. I'm not going to fight them a second time. Fighting them once is good enough. I'm basically only fighting each enemy group once. I mean, I guess I could fight Vikings again, but I don't want to go through another 2.5 minute fight, so let's just try to run past these guys. Not necessarily easy, but doable.
Colonel, we've lost the intruders.
That means we're code yellow. No, wait. Code blue? If we were orange, that would mean...
The escapees made it through! They're entering the engine room!
No! Damn the sea!
Intruders located! They're on the weather deck, starboard side!
Make it rain!
Desperate times demand flexibility. Code white.
Power's down. What's going on?
We're back with Saz and Vanille. So let's see what Crystarium things they could possibly get. We have 2 more commando roles, or abilities for Saz. Let's go get those. And now we have all of Saz's current abilities. Vanille has 1 more Saboteur ability. There's her Dispel. Yeah, I guess Fang was the one who had Dispel that I was thinking of earlier in the game. They have the same Paradigm deck as we left them with last time, and it's good enough for what I want. Now, Saz can now benefit from this upgraded Brawler's Wristband. The thing with Saz, a lot of people look at Saz's stats and they think that he has low stats, and then some people say that his strength is low because his gun hits twice, but that doesn't actually make sense because each bullet actually has half the damage of a normal attack anyway. His weapons provide massive stat boosts relative to others. So while his base stats are a bit lower on average, his weapons provide more stat boosts than others on average. So he really benefits from strength, or not strength, but just general stat boosting accessories. Like this Brawler's Wristband basically doubles his strength stat right now, which will let him hit much harder. So we do want to utilize that on Saz. Vanille is just here to help out Saz, really. So I'm gonna go with the usual black belts. Just, I don't know that it's necessarily the best thing, but it's my go-to just because lowering damage helps with survivability. Lowering party damage, rather. So unlike last time, when I went around the outer ring and I went inner, I'm going to start inner. Because there's not really an inner ring, there's just the inner platform. This fight. This is one of the hardest fights. I'm actually going to start with the summon.
I summon Brunhilde!
There you are. About time you showed up.
The big problem is that these Thermodynes spam Aurora like it's nobody's business. But we have Saz, which means that we can utilize In Thunder. Also, his Blitz is, of course, really good.
Good to see you. Did you see that coming?
Now, with Thermodyne in water is actually the one I want. So remember, Thermodyne is weak to water. Yeah, Thunder works best here. And now we have Imperil and we have Deprotect. Actually, because he's imperiled, it didn't matter that I changed to Thunder. Or to water. In fact, I'm gonna go and stagger him. Actually, that's not the way. Stumbling a bit on inputs, it seems. But once he's staggered, his damage resistance goes way down, and you can make short work of him. So I utilized Brunhilde in that fight for several reasons. The main one is that Brunhilde helps protect Saz. Not all Eidolons have Kiraga, but Brunhilde does. Yeah. Kiraga, which maxes out your leader's HP, and your Eidolons that have Kiraga cast them when they see that your character's at yellow HP, which will help with survivability. Now, this is sort of a waste of an Eidolon because, you know, you might as well just throw potions or have a medic out. But at the same time, this is full healing, and other Eidolons who also cast Kiraga could also draw enemy attacks towards the Eidolon, which will allow you to keep going and doing stuff. But having those 3 Vespid soldiers in that fight, it's a really difficult fight to win normally, so I chose to bring out the summon for that. Not to use it as a summon, but just as extra protection. My reward for that fight is apparently a Phoenix down. Now let's go back out here. We have a Flanitor and 2 Flamborgs, which the Flamborgs are weak to water. One's down. Flanitor's down. Flamborg 2's
See
down.
you, Daddy, now.
We have an item ball over here, but it's guarded by a Flamborg.
Watch and learn, kid.
And you can really see how powerful the combination of offensive buffs and offensive debuffs get, because we can one-shot a Flamborg when fully set up. This item ball has 8 segmented carapaces. Seems like those enemies have actually respawned already. Yep, they're respawned. Responded, yes, that is good English. I'm gonna skip this Thermodyne for now, because I actually need to go that way later. We'll start off by fighting the remaining enemies around this ring. All seem to be Flan enemies.
Did you see that coming? Bullseye. Watch and learn, kid.
That's not what I wanted. Is that it? Oh, nope, there is more. 2 Flanators, it looks like. These guys don't actually have a natural weakness, so I'm not gonna bother with the debuff or with an end spell. Maybe we'll get lucky and Vanilla will land an Imperil, but I mean, they are pretty weak anyway. Oh, yeah, there's an end spell right there. Excellent!
Did you see that coming?
But this one has deep attack, so he's down.
Wisdom does come with age.
Sometimes you don't need all of the buffs and the debuffs in order to win fast. Because sometimes enemies are just so weak that you don't really need all of that special stuff. We seem to be around back to the start, so now I'm going to back up and fight that Thermodyne I skipped.
Watch and learn, kid. We got this, Vanille. Watch and learn, kid.
And he's down. Alright, so this is actually a very short segment. I'm going to unequip these accessories and move on.
Well, isn't this great?
There's actually an extra fight here, but since this does end the section, I did want to remove the accessories. Let's take out the Vested Soldier first.
See that coming? Go, girl. Follow the old man's lead.
Oh.
Ducks.
Surprise!
Run out.
That's okay. Because you can see how much more dangerous fights get when you don't have the black belt. That's why I did that, yeah. Mm-hmm. A potion would have spared me there, actually, but that's okay. Actually gonna throw a potion here. This is a nicely timed potion, which keeps Saz's feet on the ground and avoids the launch from Thermodyne.
Leave it to me. Follow the old man's lead.
So I intentionally waited to blitz there so that the Thermodon can walk closer so that more of these blitz bullets can hit. Because you can notice that Saz's guns, while they are really nice to use, they do have miss potential.
The wind, it's dying down.
Yeah, it's stopping. And we're decelerating. They up to something?
I don't suppose it could just be, I don't know, good luck?
That looks a lot more like bad luck.
You got a point.
Not to me. That we can do something about.
And now we're back to lightning
tables.
bang. And so we
Feet
are
still
now
working?
outside. Fantastic. This is the outside area. It's very outside. Is there someone missing things in a Crystarium somewhere? Lightning's medic. Alright. So now we have all of the relevant abilities on these characters. I should even say relevant. They have all the abilities. The next step is probably the roll level, because that will increase the effectiveness of the individual rolls, but they actually cost more than these 1,200 for Fang. They actually cost 2,000, which isn't that much more significant. But I mean, you have to go all the way around the ring, and then you have to spend a little extra to get that roll level. So that will be the priority, but we're not going to work on it right now because we really can't get any. But we will go ahead and, because, let's see, the enemies over here, we have Vespid soldiers and we have Vikings. Let's mix it up and let's actually make Lightning a mage. Which will actually help with the Viking, because then I can just spam Watera and Thundera post-stagger, increasing the chain gauge while also doing comparable damage because it is magic elemental. And then the other characters will have the black belts. And a bangle, I guess. Let's start with Ravager. I think. Well, because the first enemy is just the Vespid soldier. Well, they are weak to thunder. And I do sort of have a thunder elemental, or thunder AoE attack called Thundara. Not as wide of a spread as Blitz, but manageable. I guess I can use Quake to get max duration. And since I'm going to be using Thunder as AoE, I probably want to just have Lightning as a Ravager. Alright, now let's see if we can get the Preempt, which will make this easier. Yep, we got it. Yep, that fight went
Easy.
well. This one, I don't know. Let's see if we can get the preempt. I'm not sure where the battle zone is. It seems to be right here. It's right here. It's right here. And we got it. All right. So now let's see how useful Wadara and stuff is. Yeah, now we're down to this guy. And since it's only the single guy, I'm just going to use Relentless Assault. We don't need any more buffs. We got it. This item ball has a Whistlewind scarf. Charges a single ATB gauge segment prior to battle, which ATB advantage charges a single ATB gauge segment prior to battle. It's a description that actually matches the item. Well, I guess okay, I guess these generally say exactly what the description is. I never really noticed that. I guess it's different for weapons, which makes sense. The thing about Whistlewind Scarf, though, and I didn't have this prepared beforehand. The upgrade for the Whistlewind Scarf is relatively cheap, if I recall. Let's take a look and see. I can easily max it with just sturdy bones if I so wanted. That doesn't necessarily seem wise. It would cost me... yeah, it would cost me more than a single crankshaft. Well, yeah, one crankshaft maxes it. But actually, we have something that we can use instead. Digital circuit? Well, that should be sold. Let's just sell these because get them out of the way. Incentive chips, credit chips, digital circuits. Well, if we can max it with the 2 digital circuits, that would actually save us gil. It takes 3. Unless I open with 2 sturdy bones, which will cost 160 gil. Which is cheaper. And we actually have Barb Tails here, so I can do it right now. Alright, so you're probably wondering why I'm so interested in maxing this Whistlewind Scarf. Well, and let's just save in case I screw this up, because it wouldn't be the first time that I screw up an upgrade in this playthrough, but the Whistlewind Scarf is pretty easy to max. It's 2 barbed tails, and then these 2 digital circuits. Yep, that does work. It maxes. Now, the thing about maxing an accessory like this, it doesn't provide a stat boost, and therefore it maxes when you level it up. And the upgrade doesn't actually benefit the passive ability at all. It still only only charges 1 ATB segment before battle, but the Brodo Cross-Sight lights up. The transformational catalyst for the Whistlewind Scarf is the Brodo Cross-Sight. So if I use it, and I can't actually use more than 1, if I use the Brodo Cross-Sight, it changes the accessory into a different one, called Aurora Scarf, whose passive ability is First Strike. And if I take a look at that, I guess it probably also popped up in the upgrade, but fully charges the wearer's ATB gauge prior to battle. So instead of only charging one ATB segment, this charges all ATB segments before the fight starts. Now, in a preemptive strike, lightning starts with full ATB, but you probably don't notice that Hope and Fang don't start with full ATB. They actually need time to charge their ATB. But if you give them an Aurora Scarf, they will start attacking immediately. So Fang probably doesn't need the Tungsten Bangle as much, but she could benefit from the Aurora Scarf. Hope could also benefit from the Aurora Scarf, but let's test this on Fang to start with and see what happens. Especially if I can get this preemptive strike. I don't know that I will get this preemptive strike. Nope, I did not. But we'll be able to see Fang start acting immediately.
Nothing I can't
See,
handle.
there's the slowdown,
Thanks.
which helps with getting immediate chain duration. Actually, why am I doing Watera Watera? I should be doing Thundara Thundara. And as you can see, there's going to be some Aurora spam happening. This would be a fight that would benefit more from the rune bracelet than the black belt. Now, we only barely got 5 stars in that fight, but that's okay, because these enemies drop organic components. And while the rare drop is a Barbed Tail, and Barbed Tail is a component I would want to buy, it only costs 80 gil to buy one. So if I didn't get it, well, too bad. I only lose 80 gil. Womp womp. Now, we didn't get the preempt here because, because we actually encountered them outside of the battle zone, which doesn't count. There's the last
Keep a
jump.
cool head.
As long as I stay focused.
Wonder what the battle zone is for those enemies. These are Dragoons, if you forgot. They don't have an elemental weakness, but
Feeling nervous?
hopefully that won't matter too much.
Change of quick.
Oh, right, yeah. Water Thunder. If you can't notice because of all the action that's going on, Lightning's the primary damage dealer. Because of all the stat boosts on her. Lightning has 409 magic, whereas Fang has 188 strength, so Lightning's the primary damage dealer, not Fang. Even though I'm using Fang as a commando. Perfect Conductor. And then more Dragoons and Vikings.
We can win if we stay focused.
So Watera Thundara does about 10,000 damage, whereas Fang's doing about 10,000 in Extreme. Now we have Vespid Soldiers and Deck Drones, which, if we don't remember what they do, they are weak to fire and ice, and they are immune to thunder. Which is a bit annoying because we don't have fire or ice AoE, plus the thunder AoE is ineffective against the deck drones. But maybe we can give Lightning a physical setup and just go full blitz ham on these enemies. Now, I'm actually thinking I'm going to use Fang as a commando as well. In fact, let's just... I don't know why I went... Now I have 4 aggressions, which is not really effective, but whatever. Let's give Fang, in this case, a power wristband. Lightning's still the offensive, the better damage dealing one, but... she will at least be able to do some amount of damage with her boots. Because our goal is to kill as many enemies as we can before things start doing lots of damage. Alright, we did it. We survived. That is definitely not a fight you want to take down things one at a time with. Oh boy! 7 deck drones. This one might be better off with a Sentinel. If I'm going to use a Sentinel, then I probably want Fang to be super defense-y. And I probably want Lightning to be super offense-y. So let's give Fang 2 black belts. and let's see what happens.
Nothing I can't handle. Ask for it.
Now, this is an example of a weird thing, a weird technicality, I guess, of the battle system. Notice that Lightning's recharging a lot of ATB when using Blitz. That's because the auto commando ability Fault Siphon is triggering. It's triggering because Provoke is technically a debuff. Now, it's not really a debuff in the same vein as, like, it's listed with a red square and you can only have 8 of them, and I don't think Jinx actually increases its duration, but it does count as a debuff for several purposes. It counts as a debuff for chaining conditional modifiers, if you remember the discussion from a previous stream. And it counts for Fault Siphon, which means that having Provoke on an enemy in these fights can make Lightning's blitzing even more effective. So it's not a terrible idea to use a commando in these fights with many enemies, because we can trigger Fault Siphon while Lightning's blitzing, and she can attack much faster. The also nice benefit of using Fang as a Sentinel is that she's blocking, literally blocking actions, and taking no damage.
This'll be fun. This'll be fun.
I said Commando, but I meant Sentinel. Sentinel is what is helping out with these many enemy fights. Many enemy. That is probably even better English than what I was saying previously. Oh well. We're halfway through. Item ball over here that is in fact guarded. Now, I don't have to keep with the Sentinel setup, but I think I want it for the fight after this. So I'm just gonna stick with it.
Out of my way! Time for another approach. This'll be fun. Be ready for the next fight.
Now, it might be tempting to use Sentinel in many fights, but unless you're really getting a benefit out of it, which is sometimes just survivability, but in this case, I'm really using it more for Lightning's ATB recharge. It's not really worth using because you're losing one party member for defense. Now here we have 5 deck drones, so the same drill as previously. See, even without a guard, she's not taking any damage because she is loaded on physical resistance with the 2 black belts, plus protect, plus the Sentinel damage reduction, plus damage wall, I believe, is also triggering her physical wall, which is actually the thing that's making her take 0 damage. But only because of all the reductions before that point.
Easy.
around a little.
Enemies here. Now, because we do have a Viking, I probably do want Ravager again. In fact, we're not even using 2 copies of Strategic Warfare. Let's turn this one into Smart Bomb. I do still want to stay physical because the deck drones, we don't have good AoE options as a Ravager with them. Or even as a Commando. We don't have Ruinga, which is a Commando magic AoE ability, which only appears much later on in the game.
Cool head. This'll be fun. This'll be fun. Out of my way! Nothing personal. You asked for it. As if there was any doubt.
Let's see, over here. So those are weak to thunder and thunder water, so we could have lightning as a mage. I'm actually gonna go just make her full mage, because why not? Full out. Actually, I guess that's not really what I want, or something. I don't know. Try for the preempt. You got it! They are normal to water, but I guess Thundara would be the best to kill them. Kill them as fast as you can before they cast a Roga. Alright. We're not going to get the kill in one stagger, unfortunately.
The enemy off balance.
Because I didn't use Quake, I think. 'Cause I was trying to avoid Quake.
Change
For
of
no
plan.
reason. Now, while Watera and Thundera are best for chaining post-stagger, the single target spells, Water and Thunder, still do more damage per ATB, so at some point it's probably more damage effective to switch to Water and Thunder. But getting the exact precision is a bit difficult on the fly. Oh, by the way, there's an item down there. Let's grab that item first, I guess. I think it's on that side. So first, I need to go on this thing. Run around over here. Run down. Nope, we didn't make it. Oh well. I guess those thrusters do something to keep this thing in the air, because remember, this is the Palamecia, a flying airship. For all that effort, I got 300 gil. That's a pretty boring chest at this point in the game. In fact, we had a 3 incentive chip in this very chapter, which provided 7,500 gil, which is like 30 times more than that chest was. Alright, so I'm trying to think about this fight. I think physical lightning with Fang Sentinel for the Dragoons to utilize the ATB recharge. The Viking will have to be handled with strikes. Oh, there's the Brawler's wristband. Alright. Yeah, black belt is fine. Sentinel with Commando to get this gets me protects. Commando with Ravager and Sentinel, and then do that twice for ATB if needed. Smart Bomb for Slow and Curse if needed, / general chaining on the Viking, and then Relentless Assault for post stagger damage dealing. I don't think the preempt is easy to get in this case.
We can win if we stay focused.
The triple kill.
New strategy. Eat this. That's how it's done.
More Dragoons.
Change of speed. Stay down. Target's a target.
That's a blindside trigger. I don't think we've seen blindside yet, but it does do a little more damage. Two incentive chips. Excellent. Nice to get those drops when you're not, like, spending active time farming. You're just fighting. You get another spark ring, which is, again, limited in quantity. We actually have 5 lightning elemental resistance accessories. You might be very tempted to want to sell some number of these, but as a completionist, I don't want to sell these because you can't get any more beyond what's obtained in the game. There's a few more fights. I don't know if I can get a good blitz going with these positions.
Wide open.
Yeah, it's only really hitting one, so unless they move, which they're moving but not closer together, I'm gonna have to do single targets.
You asked for it. Nothing personal.
A post-stagger blindside. That's rare. Blindside only triggers pre-stagger, but it started before stagger happened, but executed after stagger happened. We did not get 5 stars in that fight. Tragedy. And there's actually a boss fight over there. I'm actually going to go for absolute defense cheese, because this fight will take a little bit of time to get fully going. We'll give the best lightning resistance here. If you can't tell, this boss can use physical attacks and lightning elemental attacks, which probably means that this will keep us fully defended. You can get a roll level. Yay! Level 3 commando for extra damage dealing. Level 3 ravager for extra chaining. And we cannot get the level 3 medic. I am very sad. Level 3 synergist for extra buff durations. And that's all we can really get there. Oh, and I do want to set up different paradigms. I think starting there is wise. ATP refresh for extra defense buffing, I guess. Smart bomb in case I want extra chaining there. Relentless assault. Commandos. Actually, I think... Yeah, I don't think I want that. I think I want this.
Makes us lucky. Because when we kill it, we're one step closer to Vanille. How's that? Well, when you put it that way...
Let's see what this guy's weak to. Nothing! He is normal to fire, ice, water. He halves arrow. He absorbs thunder. He halves physical. He delivers devastating physical attacks. He is susceptible to slow. He is susceptible to curse. Perfect, because that is all that Fang can cast. He has 108,000 HP, which is actually about as much as a Viking had. But I guess since he lacks elemental weaknesses, I guess that makes it a little more threatening. He has a lot of paper clips. I guess that's something threatening and menacing about this guy. Well, alright, he's fully debuffed, he's staggered. He's not, so I can just I was gonna say he's not weak to water, but he's normal, so I can just do watera. And then I can damage him. He's chained, he's strong, or not strong, he's staggers high. He's not weak to an element, so Commando's our best damage dealer. And he's down. Well, that wasn't too hard.
Another one.
One big fat stroke of luck after another. I'm so happy I could cry.
Tease us, will ya?
Come down here!
Vanille!
There you are.
Ah, miss me? You, the monster! Where?
Ah, there's another one! Employs powerful lightning-based attacks, delivers devastating physical attacks. Susceptible to slow, susceptible to curse. His chain resistance seems higher. He also has slightly more HP, but his elemental vulnerabilities hasn't changed, so, he's doing the same thing.
Eat this!
I decided I wanted Protect after all. He seems to be hitting hard. Well, I guess
Keep the
we
enemy
got all
off
the
them.
debuffs. I know, Hope's almost dead.
Thank you.
I kept him alive, people.
Eat this! Time for another approach. Eat this! Change of plan. Eat this!
Oh, he's down. There's not gonna be another one, is there?
Vanille! Bang! You've still got time.
Fang, there's something I need to tell you.
Making me worry like that. We'll talk later, Missy.
What's wrong?
Huh? Oh, nothing. Nothing. What's on the agenda?
Toppling the sanctum?
No, I mean really.
He's serious. We're gonna take down the Sanctum and give Cocoon back to the people. The Fal'Cie have called the shots for long enough.
If we pull this off, it'll be a miracle.
Well, good thing Lady Luck's on our side.
More of them?
You know, this is getting really old.
Check this out! A miracle. Grand Pulse style!
Vanille, go fish.
Got it.
already bad luck. Ah. Time to purge a Primarch.
You got it. Yeah!
Jump! I had my doubts, but I also believed that if we stuck together, somehow we could change our fate.
Isley's through there.
We're still gonna have our talk. So let's survive this first, yeah?
Right.
Battle team formation. You can change the composition of your battle team by pressing triangle to open the main menu and then selecting paradigms. Within the paradigms menu, select battle team and you'll be able to choose the battle team's leader and members. Changing the members of your battle team will reset the party's paradigm deck. Select customize to check your current paradigm and alter it if desired. Whoa! We can change our party, I almost said Barty. Our battle team. We cannot change our leader, but we can change our party. We can change the order of these two characters. We can change who's in our party. We can change the order of these two people. We can select who's in our party. Whee! There are many possibilities here. Many possible battle teams, many possible paradigm decks. Even though we cannot change our leader, which sort of bites, but whatever. We can select from any combination of party members. I'm actually going to utilize this team, Lightning, Saz, and Vanille. Because if you haven't noticed by my gripes with Lightning, Hope, Fang, I really wanted access to Bravery, Faith, Haste, Deprotect, D-Shell, Imperil, and Spell. And Saz and Vanille gets me both of those. Both buffs and debuffs. And this is actually a battle composition that we've seen previously. We saw this in Chapter 4. Also Chapter 3, I guess. But also Chapter 4 when we had Synergists and Saboteurs. And back then we didn't have End Spells, we didn't have Imperil, we didn't have Haste. But we were able to utilize Lightning's Commando together with buffs and debuffs. And now we get to do this again. But first, I guess we want to wrap up things here. The battle team formation, in case you missed the message. The Kalavinka Striker data entry there. We did get a couple accessories from that fight. The Soul Font Talisman, providing auto shell, casts shell at the start of battle. And the Blessed Talisman casts faith at the start of battle. So we're getting some auto accessories now. Now again, these auto accessories only provide a limited duration effect. I believe it is 60 seconds of the spell. So 60 seconds of faith, 60 seconds of shell, 60 seconds of protect. The critical ones, they cast when the thing is low, the HP is low. They actually last for longer. They'll last for 120 seconds. The Synergist buffs, I believe, last for 120, so it's usually better to cast those spells. But sometimes it's better to have the auto spells, especially for faster fights. You don't have to wait for the Synergist to cast the spell when you can just start with it. You can get Hermetic roll level for increased healing. And let's see, so yeah, those are all the abilities. So now I guess it's just getting these guys as roll levels. And we have all of their abilities. Do not get her medic roll level, but that's okay. We also could put Snow in our party, which means that Snow's Crystarium is actually a little relevant, but that's okay. So we have the combination of Synergist and Saboteur. We could use Smart Bomb. We could use Tireless Aggression. We could use Tireless Charge. I'm just throwing out some paradigms. Probably do want to incorporate a Gorilla. And I probably do want a Tri-Disaster. This is a paradigm we haven't seen in a while because Fang didn't have a Ravager. But Tri-Disaster is, of course, the most quick, the quickest to chain paradigm because you have 3 Ravagers whose primary purpose is to chain. But let's go with that. Oh, and I guess equipment is in order. For these fights, I know I've been using Black Belt routinely, but for these fights I do want to use a Black Belt. Because there are a lot of physical attacks that can do a lot of damage. And since we don't have Hope anymore, we won't be able to have a Protect. So having some physical resistance will help with the HP drain. We'll of course want to give Lightning some sort of strength booster, and physical AoE I think is best to start with. Vanille. Actually, I'm going to give Saz the Aurora Scarf because since he's starting as a Synergist, he can get buffs cast immediately, and we'll see him get haste on the party super quickly with that Aurora Scarf. With Vanille, what do we want here? I don't want to give her a magic booster because we're not using her for offense, really. So I guess we'll just give her a tungsten bangle. So this section involves a lot of platforms, a lot of elevators, a lot of fights. Not as many as the previous sections, but some of these fights can be very difficult. In which case, party team composition is something to consider.
You know what to do. Keep the enemy off.
But we were able to wipe out that enemy group really fast. And we got 2 incentive chips. Excellent. Now, each time you land on a new platform, you should probably activate all the platforms connected to it, or all the bridges connected to it, because killing the enemy lets you unlock the platforms, and if the enemy respawns, you can't unlock the platform unless you kill him again. I'm gonna actually go this way first, to the left. I'm gonna gradually work my way down, because our destination is down there, but I'm gonna work on the sides. I'm gonna like to work sideways and then work downways. This platform doesn't actually have an enemy group on it, but it does have a Libra scope. And then there's a backwards bridge over here. I'm gonna activate that, and while that extends, I'll activate this one. And then I will go back up this platform. It seems like backtracking, which usually means there's an item over here. It's over here. This chest has a pain dampener, which we have seen before. Provides pain resistance. We haven't seen too much of Pain and Fog, but we have seen at least Fog land on Hope, who has no physical actions, and therefore he was made inert unless we healed him. with a mallet rather. Here we have a Thermodyne and a rocket launcher guy, which actually appeared in the previous fight, but I killed him so fast.
On your toes.
So it is pretty high priority to not just take him, to stagger him, but to take him out or whatever. And we can best do that this way.
Keep a cool head.
We want to get deeper check on Thermodyne.
You asked for it.
We don't need that much else, because he will fall very quickly thanks to end spells and deprotect. And see how differently that fight felt than the one with open fang. Activate the bridges. Make our way back up here, because backtracking usually means item. Two rune bracelets. Now that saves me 9,000 gil, and I would probably want to purchase rune bracelets, so that's nice to have. I will want to upgrade those at some point. I could upgrade them right now if I really wanted, but that's okay. Let's go down here now, and there's another item ball. This one has an Umbra. This is actually a snow weapon. This emblem is designed to improve the defenses of those who place themselves in harm's way to protect others. It provides the passive ability Improved Ward. Slightly enhances the effectiveness of Death Word and Fringe Word. And Fringe Word we've seen, I think we've also seen Death Word on Fang. But Fringe Word reduces damage to nearby allies when you are the target of an area attack. This makes it so allies take a further damage reduction to AoE attacks, provided that they target the Sentinel, which generally happens as long as the Sentinel has the target provoked. And this can really help you out in several situations. Death Word boosts physical and magic resistance when HP is low, and so Improved Ward would provide for further damage protection to the Sentinel in that case. It is a great weapon if you're going to use a Sentinel setup, which we have in some cases already. It's more effective when you are under-leveled, but there are uses for Sentinel even at high development. Sometimes it is in fact required. And this fight with, let's see, we have a lot of damage dealing here. We have a rocket launcher, we have two of these huntresses, and we have a new enemy. Although we have seen this enemy type before. We saw him in Chapter 3 and we saw him in Chapter 7, and those enemies tended to be the stronger, more resistant enemies. For this one, I think we do want Vanille to be a saboteur for a while. I'm going to use Devastation instead of Aggression. But let's see, because I do want her to be dispelling the buffs of the Huntresses. Even though my primary target's going to be the rocket launcher guy. Once we have everything else taken care of, we'll investigate the
We can win if
unknown
we stay focused.
target.
Thanks.
Alright, they have a deprotect on Saz, which can be bad. We're almost fully buffed, though. We're also almost dead. So let's get some last-minute heals in order.
Thank you.
All right, he's down. She's down.
Nothing personal.
Deep Protect really hurts when it's on your side. Is this guy immune to Imperil? No, he's not. So we haven't actually revealed his intel yet, but some of it's already filled in. He only has 59,000 HP. He's capable of inflicting Deep Protect, as we saw. He executes powerful magic attacks, which would prompt Hope to cast Shell. He is susceptible to Deep Protect, which is why Vanille was casting that one. But he is now staggered, so he should hopefully fall somewhat easily. And he does. That fight can get hairy if you prioritize targets in a bad order. We get a lucky incentive chip. We also have a Cobaltite. Cobaltite is in fact a transformational catalyst. We will hold on to those because we will need some number of those. Having them as drops actually helps tremendously. I don't remember how much they cost. I want to say 30,000 gil. But trying to sell them, you'll only get 3,000 gil back, so it's not worth it. And then over here is another fight. We'll want to take out the rocket launcher guy immediately.
Time for another approach.
And it helps when he has Deep Protect. As well as End Spell.
Thank you. Target's a target.
I was hoping for Saz to take him out, but Saz doesn't have the strike setup that Lightning has, and he also did not have bravery that Lightning had. A lucky incentive chip. Now let's go down. It's an empty platform. This chest has 3,600 gil. Certainly a lot better than 300 gil. This bridge over here takes us to another enemy group. Spamming Imperil on the Thermodyne because Thermodyne is susceptible to Imperil. Alright, there's damage. These guys do not have an innate fire weakness. Saz is casting Inspire because Imperil is creating one.
Change of plan. Keep the enemy off balance.
Now, these fights go a lot faster when you can combine the right buffs and debuffs, which Hope and Fang don't provide. This is where the game starts really speeding up, battle-wise. Alright, let's see. We have another one of those. I believe that they're called Reavers. I forgot to say the name, but I believe they're Reavers. And we have those physical goons, which usually involves chaining. Although I guess we saw them in the previous fight. So it's basically the previous fight, but with a Reaver instead of the Thermodyne. Except there were, in fact, Dragoons. It was a trap. But that's okay. We'll target the Dragoons first, because they hit really hard. I'm actually not even going to shift out, because I want the Commando. I want the Commando AoE.
Target's a target.
That's not what I wanted to target. Now, if they start guarding, we should become a Ravager, although that's done. So let's get this going, although we do need heals. This is about the time in the game where you probably want to start utilizing medics, because for one, we have 3 party members, so we can spare one for medic. And furthermore, our HP is getting high enough that even with doctor's codes, we wouldn't really heal as much.
Target's a target.
So now we go down. Two destroyers. It's actually a little bit of an exploit here I can take advantage of. They start walking together, they stop walking together once they take damage, but now they're close together.
Thanks.
Which means that I can stagger them somewhat easily now. In simultaneous stagger them, rather, using Thundara Watera, and they should both fall quickly enough now. Yeah, they're both dead.
Easy.
Without taking them out so fast, it can get pretty hectic because their rocket launchers, their first launch takes a while, and then afterwards they just start spamming it. This chest has a perfect conductor. This is kind of an amazing sight, honestly. I don't know. Looks pretty. This can be a difficult fight. Not gonna lie. Lots of targets.
Keep your mind on the battle.
To this point, we haven't used Renew. This is how you would use Renew. It's a technique. It appears right here, and it restores half your party's HP.
Thank you. Change of plan.
It's probably one of the more frequently used techniques that anyone would use because it has an easily understood purpose. So it's kind of amusing that I've made it this far without using it. Although I guess I kind of only just got it too, so.
Keep the enemy off balance.
Alright, so we'll activate this one. We'll activate this one, and down there is actually where we should go for story. But of course, because this is an RPG, we will check everything else except our first destination, or our goal destination, or whatever. We have a destroyer. Which means he's target numero uno.
Nothing personal.
But down here is an item. A gold bangle, which, surprise, surprise, increases HP. HP plus 250, which is better than a tungsten bangle. I believe I pointed out that the titanium bangle is actually the tier between tungsten and gold, and it is not found in an item chest. So if you want the titanium bangle for the treasure hunter achievement, you need to purchase it, weirdly. But that is all the enemies in this section. So the titanium, or not the titanium, the gold bangle can of course replace Vanille's accessory slot. She now has the most HP in this party, and everyone has at least 1,000 HP other than Hope. Let's just round up some missing nodes, and I'm just gonna backtrack a bit to make sure that I got all the ones to that point. This here is a strength plus 12 node, which is actually really good. She's now at over 400 strength. And that's all the nodes in her commando tree. You could probably pick and choose which nodes based on what's most useful, but since there's not really any massive priority, we've actually maxed her Ravager. Her Medic isn't maxed, but that's okay. Let's see, we want Synergist roll level here for extra buff durations. And now let's go back and pick up what we've missed. Actually, that's that. And that is a maxed Commando. A maxed Ravager. Not a maxed Synergist. Maxed Ravager. Maxed Saboteur. Oh, and I never got her roll level. Oops. Oh well. Snow, let's go ahead and just develop these characters. One ability, one roll level. Abilities up here. He gets his Scourge. Two abilities, one roll level. Overwhelm. Four abilities, one roll level. He gets his Death Word, the combo with his Umbra. He gets his Challenge. He gets his Metaguard. His Renew. And his roll level. So now let's just back up and get the missing stat nodes. I think we previously had maxed out his Crystarium, so this is going to be just this stage of the tree. That's maxed. That's maxed. And that's maxed. So Snow is, in fact, maxed out on Crystarium. Roll level first, before we forget. And then all the abilities are, of course, there. So now let's get the missing nodes. That's maxed. And, well, we're not going to max here. That's all we can get. He's not even at 1,000 HP. He's 5 HP short. If I had gotten this node, though, he would have been at over 1,000. So even he could be at over 1,000. For Fang, roll level. Oh, we're not going to get her roll level here. Oh well. So everyone is now decked out in CP. I'm actually gonna go and upgrade the rune bracelets. If you can't tell by the fact that I'm leveling everyone's Crystarium, there's actually a boss coming up. And this is a very, what's the word? Notorious boss, very infamous boss. But he primarily uses magic spells, so upgrading the rune bracelets will help out in this fight. This item ball over here, by the way, last item ball of the chapter, provides an ether soul. So in case you need some TP, and generally when you get an ether soul, it's a sign that the next encounter is a boss. But anyway, yeah, and that's the ether soul. So let's make a save before we upgrade, before we make a mistake again. Forget what I wanted to use. Well, first let's see. So let's sell things. Let's see, don't sell those. Sell the incentive chips. We get 27,500 gil and 6,000 gil. So over 30,000 gil in this chapter. I believe it was cheaper to use the digital circuits for, not the whistle. That was for the Whistlewind scarf. But what about the rune bracelet? Because I think use 9 of those. Because normally, if you were to use a crankshaft, you would need 4 of those, and crankshafts cost 840. I think it is better to use the digital circuits. I don't know that I can do it with silicone oil, though. No. So I'll sell these 5 silicone oils, but I will sell 1 digital circuit. Because 9 is enough to get a maxed rune bracelet. So let's just see from there, with the organics I have on hand, where we get. So 8 segmented carapaces. Let's try 3. Nope. Alright, there's 25%. There's 50%. Well, there's 75. There's X2. And we're not at X3, so I gotta go pick up some more. Let's start here. There's X3. There's Max. So then the other one, I can use some of the leftover organics for. I do want 4 crankshafts. Where is it? It's there. So, if you forgot, the pattern is 4, 4, 7, 3, 18. And that maxes that out. So now we have 3 maxed black belts and 3 maxed rune bracelets. That is enough for each person to have 1 of each type if needed. But I'm going to stick with just the rune bracelet because magic is the more frequent type of attack in this fight. Physical setup on lightning is fine. Actually, let's go with magic just to do something different. Because we'll see, that might be a little more useful. Aurora scarf, gold bangle. Now let's go and see what happens.
Been looking for you, Nabat.
your retreat.
Why don't you leave, Jill? Or rather, take your leave. Humans have no business here.
What? Your Eminence!
What? Magic?
Monster! People are not yours to use!
What else does one do with tools? Cocoon is a factory built by Fal'Cie. A factory for the mass production of human thralls.
Not anymore, it's not.
What can mere men do? Without our help, death is all of which you're capable. You saw the fools, a mindless mob drunk on fear of a viewless sea.
If they only knew a lassie was the one filling their glasses.
Let's see. You mean me? Oh, child, perish the thought. I am more than that. I am Fal'Cie. My name is Bartandelus, voice of the Sanctum and Lord Sovereign of the Cocoon Fal'Cie. Your kind feared the darkness, so we gave you light. You begged us for the purge, and did it not come to pass? Now you spurn our counsel. You must learn your place.
Oh boy. I'm going to start out with the Libroscope. One thing I forgot to do was actually change my paradigms, but I think that's okay. This is Bartandelus. He has 462,000 HP. 400,000 HP. Oof. And this seems pretty awful considering he's immune to all status effects and he is resistant to literally every type of damage. But the note here, difficult to damage until armor has been destroyed. So there is more to this fight than first appears. I threw a Libroscope here because there are actually some characters here that are populating as they progress. We have 4 mini heads to deal with. We have the right pauldron, right eyelet, left pauldron, left eyelet. And each one has a particular elemental weakness. They absorb a particular element. It is in fact the elements they cast, which makes sense that they'd be weak to the opposing element. They each have 50,000 4 HP except for the eyelet, although I guess that's because Vanilla just damaged it. 5,400 or something. 50,000, 5,400. 80 chain resistance, 150% stagger point, same types of intel. Executes powerful magic attacks, coordinates attacks against a single target, healed by damage vulnerable to opposing damage. So it seems as though to actually try to damage Bartandelus proper, we have to take out these 4 heads. This fight is in fact a 2-part fight. The first part is damaging these heads, and there are several ways you can go about doing it. The speedrun incorporates a strategy with 3 commandos, each with an end spell that targets the right head and takes down 3 heads almost simultaneously. It's a very clever strat, but I'm going to employ a different strat here because I want to employ Vanille, who does not have the commando role. And furthermore, Lightning is more set up than Saz is, so Lightning's still our primary damage dealer. So we're going to be focusing on these heads one at a time, which is fine because Saz can give Lightning the right end spell. Vanille might be able to help out with providing the D-Shell or D-Protect ability to help with damage there. So yeah, so there's some order we can take with this. Now, I'm going to do what looks a little silly. Oh, never mind. We're using Blizzard here. I don't want these characters to be close together. There's a way to fix that I didn't employ, but first a little stagger. Then I'm going to use an attack. This looks silly, but I'm trying to get lightning away from Sentinel. Now, a little weak on HP. We do have D-Shell there, which is great. And we have Inspire. And now we're down to 2 heads. Magic Amplification is actually going to make these heads start casting raw spells, which means they do more damage than previously.
Let's go!
I owe ya.
Bartandelus!
Wrong one. Because of the deep attack, we can just go with this. Alright, now for Bartandelus proper. So let's take a moment to take a look at his stats. He still has 462,000 HP, but he is no longer resistant to many things. Executes powerful magic attacks, delivers devastating physical attacks, employs non-elemental attacks, stores energy to unleash special abilities. So he does employ physicals, but I think that technically most of his actions are magical, so I'm happy to have the magic resistance still. Magic was helpful when there was a lot of spells happening in the previous stage, but it's also helpful here. His stagger point is 250%, a chain resistance of 75, and he is immune to poison but can be inflicted with D-Protect, D-Shell, and namely Imperil. And getting Imperil on this Bart fight makes things go faster because we will have a weakness that we can exploit with an end spell. Unfortunately, Saz lost his end spell because he targeted the head, the main head, while it was resistant to things, so we lost the end spell. So we will have to get that back on him, but he won't cast it right now because there's no reason to, because there's no elemental weakness to exploit. So we do want to get Imperil back. But we'll be seeing several special attacks. We'll be seeing an attack very soon. One of his opening attacks is called Thanatosian Smile. And it does damage to targets basically in front of his head wherever he looks. And there's no real way to exploit the damage from that other than to make sure you don't die to it. Then he's going to cast several magic type attacks. He'll probably smile again. And when his HP dips low enough, he's going to start a new attack that I will talk about when we get to that point. There's a smile, and it targeted Saz. Now that Ruinga is magic, of course, and his Baptism in Ruin is magical, so the magic resistance on my characters are helping tremendously with general survivability. There's the end spell. So now let's get the end spell on Saz. We have all the buffs, so we should probably chain a bit. And now I want to make sure I don't die.
Thank you.
And you can see how much damage we're doing, but there's, oh, he's doing this attack here. This is actually perfect. We skipped the charge-up attack altogether, and we took him out very quickly. because of the combination of end spells and deprotect and de-shell and bravery and stuff. I will mention, because people who are watching this probably wonder what to do if you end up in the situation of the charge-up attack. The charge-up attack is called Destrudo, and a lot of people operate wrongly with respect to it. He charges Destrudo for some amount of time. I don't remember how much time, but many people take the time to tank up with a Sentinel and heal up to max HP, and then they proceed to die. In fact, what you're supposed to do is deal damage to him in order to weaken Destrudo. If you do a certain amount of damage, it will take him from the strongest form of attack to the middle form of attack, and you'll know you'll have triggered it if you hear him grunt. If you do damage beyond that, and I'm sorry I don't know these numbers offhand, you want to do even more damage, he'll grunt again, and then he will cast Destrudo immediately. And it will be the weakest form and usually survivable unless you're not in green health or otherwise prepared for it. So you don't want to just wait for the attack. You don't want to tank. You probably do want to heal a bit, but I mean, don't spend ages on it because you should be damaging him. And there are several ways, of course, to do that. You could probably do it straight up with commando damage, but you could probably also get there with chaining as long as you have 3 Ravagers. And especially if you have the Lightning Saz Vanille party, it is actually super easy to do enough damage because you already have end spells and bravery and faith, and hopefully you have Imperil and Deprotect and D-Shell. You can do enough damage to take him down to the easy Destrudo range very easily with commandos. So that's how you can survive the attack. We did not see it today because I managed to get him to use Smile instead of Destrudo. That is not actually a consistent thing to do. And so I wouldn't really recommend you try to do something like that. But even if you do see Destrudo, it does not mean the end of the world. You just need to keep fighting him and keep doing damage to him. But if you are really struggling with this fight and you're really trying to figure out what to do, I highly recommend you use a party of Lightning Saz Vanille. It is the best party out of the 10 combinations available to you to use in this fight. Nothing else can really do better. The speedrun uses a slightly different party, but the speedrun also has a different setup that makes it easier to use, so I would not recommend following a speedrun strat. Alright? Alright. You get an N-Tight ring from this fight, which is an amazing accessory because it sells for 60,000 gil. And that's what it's good for. The Crystarium expanded, which means there's more to this game. But first, cutscenes.
Fal'Cie running the Sanctum.
Then, I guess it wasn't Eden controlling things after all.
As I said, I am Lord Sovereign.
Guess Fal'Cie don't go down as easy as the rest of us.
Ease is not the issue. You have not fought to win. You should know quite well already the sure way of dispatching our kind. Ragnarok.
What's Ragnarok?
Ah! Ah! Ah!
Pitiful to see. You've forgotten your focus. Ragnarok is the beast one of you must become in order to lay waste to Cocoon. You have had the dream. One among you will become that monstrosity. Defeat Orphan and destroy Cocoon.
Orphan?
The font of Eden's power. Orphan fuels Eden with strength, and Eden in turn sustains you and the rest of our kind. Destroy Orphan, and you'll release a force such as this world has never seen. Cocoon will be torn asunder.
So if I did that, destroyed Orphan,
Your focus will be fulfilled.
so what? Who says it has to be?
asked us to save Cocoon before she turned to crystal.
Save it! And that's what we're gonna do. Sarah was trying to tell us how to complete our focus, and we have...
Allow me to help you see the truth of things. The moment you arrived, your friend wept crystal tears. This was because her focus required that you be brought together. That girl did nothing but assemble the tools for Cocoon's destruction. Did it never occur to you? Or did you simply refuse to countenance the thought? If you will not face the truth, then face the peril of your plight. Run, let's see. See how stark reality is.
Come on!
This is bad! The yoke's jammed! Knew it was a trap!
Something's coming!
Not so fast, Lassie. Hang on! Huh? The hell kind of ship is this? Fighting on its own? Clever, aren't you?
Can we do something?
Got me? I give up! The shield!
Saz, look out!
That's the end of chapter 9. 4 chapters to go. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed chapter 9, and I will see you in the future.